So if you don't know about the Five Nights at Freddy's movie, I'm convinced you were cryogenically frozen and have only just been woken up, because this has been plastered all over social media, like platforms like Twitter, and there's been constant memes being made about it. And every YouTube channel imaginable hyping it up. Now, I'm going to throw the contraceptive away and just raw dog you right now. Vocally and to the point, not what else you were thinking. You sick fuck. I watched the movie yesterday and I did not like it. And the people I was watching it with did not like it either. But I will say this, I watched it through Peacock, not actually in the theatre, because the thought of going outside scared the shit out of me, and I had a game of League of Legends to queue. Sorry, I lied to you there. I thought I was explaining what you were going to do on that night, not what I was going to do. The main reason I didn't go see it in cinemas was because if it gets released online, I'd rather watch it online in the comfort of my own home for free, obviously including the Peacock subscription that was already there, because I could have watched it on that night or the next day, where I'd have probably been spoiled anyway within that time frame. But anyway, back to the movie. But there were a handful of things in the movie I really did like. And if you don't know what Five Nights at Freddy's is in general, I'm somewhat of a professional on the matter, so I'll cue you in. I first played the Five Nights at Freddy's game like 8 to 6 years ago, which is very weird to say because it feels like almost yesterday this game came out. But I'm going to break down the premise for you, because I'm a seasoned veteran in this area. I'm not one of those people that, got so much into FNAF they became a fairy. It's actually mind-boggling how many people got into being a fairy through FNAF. But anyway, here's a quick conclusion of the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise. Basically Chuck E. Cheese with animatronics controlled by dead children. And that's it. Don't worry, there is an entire 50-page lore about everything else that happened, but that is the main premise. And I feel like if you know the majority of the lore, you've already spoiled the movie for yourself. But I'm going to explain why I didn't like it in the way where it doesn't give out as many spoilers if you're going to go watch it. But still, there are going to be tiny spoilers, and I'll shout in your face when they're coming. The one thing I really didn't like, which was completely my fault, is that I got hyped up over this film and going into it thinking that it was going to be a horror film. Because playing the games as a kid, I would piss myself constantly playing them. Because there were things like jump scares and eerie backgrounds, like suspense. And none of it was in the movie. And it was completely my fault because the movie is aimed at children. I simply thought because the games I played as a kid were so scary, I thought the movie would be the same. It wasn't. And there is hints of like gore and blood in the movie, but none of it is frightening whatsoever. Or it doesn't lead up to it to build suspense. It's just there. I generally thought going into this movie I'd at least jump once or twice, but throughout the movie, not a single time. They did not build up to any scary parts or jump scares. It was just an entirely normal movie. I think if you remove the horror tag, it would do just fine. It was like watching a Nature Geographic show. I think that would be even scarier than this movie. But I'm somewhat an adult. Somewhat, being a very key word there. But I do think the movie would have been enough to scare a child, or even give them nightmares. And looking at the reviews, kids really did enjoy it. But the main point is, I and the person I watched it with was too old to enjoy it, apparently. But on to the next part, the general lore of the movie was pretty much on point, aside from some tiny gaps here and there. But I guarantee you could probably find a better YouTuber that will go more into depth about the war crimes they've committed by not including X and Y. But the one thing I found most confusing, and that was just fucking me in the head the entire time I was watching the rest of it, spoiler warning ahead, was when Freddy went to go get the little girl and he came to their house. But I was just thinking to myself, how did he fucking get there from Freddy's Pizzeria to all the way to their house? Like, they show in the movie it takes a while to get there and a while to get back, but he just appeared there. Like, was it a fucking ghost? Or it couldn't have, first of all, it couldn't have been a fucking ghost. When they were leaving, they got into a taxi and the taxi driver acknowledged the robot was there and it had a wait to the car. So Freddy just fucking walked there like 200 miles or some shit just to abduct a child and then get in a taxi. And no one's noticed anything about a fucking massive bear walking down the freeway or some shit. No one noticed. But yeah, the majority of watching the rest of the movie, that was just in my head. How did he get there? But before I get into the rest of what I hated, I'm just going to say some good things I actually liked about the movie. One thing, the CGI and costumes were absolutely great. The CGI did not remind me of Berserk whatsoever, thank God. And the only problem I did have with the CGI and costumes was the fucking cupcake. Compared to the other costumes and CGI, it looked out of place. It generally just looked like you when you were in your mother's womb. You were a bit overcooked. But as long as EDP ain't holding that cupcake, we're all going to be fine. But apart from that, the CGI and costumes were great. Another thing I really liked was when I saw Matthew Patrick in the diner scene. And as soon as I saw him in the scene and recognised it was him, the neurons in my brains activated, the serotonin released from my brain, and the only thing that came out of my mouth next was game theory. I actually had to pause the movie and explain to the person I was watching with how important this guy was to the Five Nights at Freddy's fan base and whatnot. To the point where they've blocked me on all social media. They are not responding to my calls or texts. I think it was a them problem, not a me problem. I just really like Matthew Patrick. But overall, I really enjoyed the cast they picked. Especially Matthew Lillard, who has been a part of my childhood for a while. He played Shaggy in Scooby-Doo, the live-action version, which to this day I think is a masterpiece, and whoever shits on it is poorly misguided. Another thing I absolutely loved was the end credits, not because the movie finally fucking ended, but the music that was playing. And any other person that was a kid 8 years ago and a fan of this game would have been fucking rocking to that beat. That shit was our childhood. The Living Tombstone has never missed a fucking song with the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise, and just the fact they included the first song they ever did, it was great. I loved it. But I would have liked to see the second song they did, which was even more of a fucking banger than the first one. Anyway, back to my critique of the movie. Another thing I really didn't like about the movie was a majority of the way through, they're very friendly with the animatronics. The animatronics aren't seen as hostile whatsoever. Like, they're all buddy-buddy, they're creating pillow forts and everything, until they try and fucking abduct the child and eat it. Like, a big part of the Five Nights at Freddy's games was these things are the enemy. They are very scary. And I would have liked it if, like, the first part of the movie, there would have been at least a bit of creepiness around the animatronics, like they were stalking him when he was doing the security guard shit, or they would have moved around. But the only time that build-up or suspense or fear is even developed is when, like, 3 different people are invading the business and they all just get slaughtered. Like, and only, like, a quarter of that scene is them building this creepy atmosphere where you know something's going to happen. But they do not do that throughout the movie. They don't even do it with the main character. And the main character never really views them as the enemy except for the conclusion of the story. And they're not even seen as creepy a majority of the time, except for when the people broke in. They're just seen as these 6-foot-tall animatronics that are all cutesy with the main character's sister. They're not creepy whatsoever. And the big problem they did was they made them kind of human-like. Like, I know they're possessed by dead children, but a big part of the games was we didn't know they were possessed by children. We just knew they were animatronics trying to fucking kill us. And that was creepy. We didn't know very much about them. They just wanted to kill us. But in the movie, they made them so human-like with human emotions and how they would get along with the main character's sister. It just made it impossible to view them as creepy or scary. And the last thing I really didn't like about the movie was the music that would play when the animatronics are about to kill someone. Now, we all know the music that plays. It's probably been in our nightmares since children.
Hey guys, so we're going to be reacting to this music disc.
But they replaced it in the movie with just a generic jingle. The song that plays in the game is very creepy. It gives off the thought that you're just gonna fucking die, or at least something very bad is gonna happen. But in the movie, it is just replaced with Freddy singing this fucking jingle. And I think the fact that in the game, you know, it's no one singing, it's just a bunch of chimes playing, compared to the movie where it's Freddy singing, it makes it a lot more goofier that, oh, Freddy's singing whilst he's coming towards me, and this is not scary at all. But that is what I thought of the Five Nights at Freddy's movie. A majority of my points can be dismissed by the fact that this was aimed at children. But all I'm going to say is, fuck you, I'm a man-child. The movie of the game I've played since I was a child should have fucking scared me and left me with mental scars that I will never recover from. But yeah, that's going to wrap up the video. Enjoy this meme, and bye-bye.